Today, I wanted to do a video topic about hypothetical biochemistries. What does this mean? Let's say chemical 1 is important for life, and chemical 2 is similar to chemical 1. Then maybe chemical 2 could be used in life instead of chemical 1. Hypothetical biochemistry is one of my favorite topics to research about, mostly because it's a topic that involves a lot of imagination mixed with research. When you ask, what if chemical 1 was replaced by chemical 2 in biochemistry, you have to try and find ways for living things to work with chemical 2 and without chemical 1. And the article I read that started my interest in this topic was by researcher Felisa Wolfe-Simon, who discovered a new type of bacteria in Mono Lake in Eastern California that she claimed replaced the phosphorus in its DNA with arsenic. Arsenic is an element that can make the same kinds of chemical bonds as phosphorus. That's actually why arsenic is directly below phosphorus on the periodic table of elements. So in theory at least, arsenic could replace the phosphorus in DNA, creating a new type of DNA with new properties. And just a fun fact, this new bacteria is named GFAJ-1. And I am not making this up, this stands for Give Felicia a Job -1. Because discovering a new bacteria that potentially changes the way we look at biochemistry ensured that Felisa Wolfe-Simon had a secure job in studying it. When I first heard about this, I was so fascinated by the idea of DNAs that could be chemically different, especially with arsenic, which is known infamously as the king killer and the killer of kings. And I wanted to know what properties DNA with arsenic would have compared to normal DNA that used phosphorus. Now, before I completely nerd out about this, I should say that Felicia's research has been highly discredited by many sources, and researchers who tried to duplicate Felicia's experiments got different results than Felicia did, suggesting that Felicia's experiments were flawed. Probably something wasn't cleaned properly in the process. And GFAJ-1, while it can survive in high arsenic environments that would kill most life, actually has normal DNA. But just for fun, why don't we look at this from a hypothetical perspective? What if arsenic replaced the phosphorus in DNA? How would this change the properties of DNA? And can this different DNA sustain life? Well, first we should address the fact that arsenic is toxic to most life on Earth. Even if arsenic DNA is possible, it's meaningless if having a large amount of arsenic in your body ends up killing you. There are some organisms who can survive in high arsenic environments. We already talked about the bacteria GFAJ-1, and there are also some algae, fish, and fungus that can put the arsenic in their bodies into a compound molecule that makes it almost non-toxic. It's kind of like when you're in a group project, and there's that one person who will just make the project worse. So you get your friend to distract him until you can get the project done. Then you turn the project in and you don't have to worry about him anymore. So although you might ingest arsenic by eating mushrooms or fish, you don't need to worry, because this arsenic is being distracted by the compound molecule while your body does what it needs to. But this is only surviving arsenic. It's not really incorporating arsenic into our biochemistry the same way phosphorus is. We want to make it so that arsenic can help us out with the group project and be productive instead of being destructive. So first, let's tackle the problem. How is arsenic toxic to most organisms? Every single cell in your body needs energy, from the neurons in your brain to the skin cells on your feet. To get energy from the food you eat to every cell in your body, organisms produce a chemical called Adenosine Triphosphate, or ATP if you're tired of pronouncing scientific names. Organisms store energy in ATP. Then the ATP is delivered to every cell in your body that needs energy. And with free shipping too! Phosphorus plays an important role in the production of ATP. And going back to the group project example, arsenic is the person who tries to forcibly take over phosphorus as part of the project because he thinks he can do it better, and ends up breaking the whole project instead. So arsenic stops the production of ATP in our bodies, and because ATP isn't being produced, cells aren't getting the energy delivered to them, and your cells will start to starve to death and die. So to incorporate arsenic into our biochemistry, we need to find a new way of getting energy to our cells since ATP is difficult to create with high levels of arsenic. The answer is simple: if you can't beat them, join them. There are some seaweeds that produce arsenic sugars, and as the name implies, they're sugars that are made with arsenic. And similar to ATP, arsenic sugars could potentially store energy and transport it to different parts of an organism. So in theory, organisms could use arsenic sugars to deliver energy to cells instead of ATP, and the cells in our bodies could learn how to use energy from arsenic sugars. In other words, it seems theoretically possible to incorporate arsenic into our biochemistry. Now, I don't want to give anyone the wrong idea. There are a lot of things that would need to adjust in biochemistry in order for an organism to use arsenic and arsenic sugars, and I am not saying that we solved every problem that arsenic causes. This little guy is a serious troublemaker. But at the very least, we thought of a possible solution to one big problem, which I think is the fun part of hypothetical biochemistry. So let's just say it's not impossible to incorporate arsenic into biochemistry. And for the sake of moving on, let's say that hypothetically, there's an alien planet where life has evolved to incorporate arsenic into its biochemistry. Now that we've established that, we can ask if it's possible for arsenic to be a replacement for phosphorus in DNA. Phosphorus actually has a pretty interesting role in DNA. Strands of DNA are made up of bases, with each base having one amino acid. The job of phosphorus is to hold the DNA bases together, so the only reason that DNA is able to form long strands and code life is because phosphorus is what's holding the bases together. Arsenic, while it has similar chemical properties to phosphorus, is a lot larger than phosphorus, and a lot less stable. If arsenic replaced the phosphorus in DNA, then arsenic would be the atom in charge of holding the DNA bases together. Because arsenic is less stable than phosphorus, it's not strong enough to hold the DNA bases together for very long, and DNA only works because it's stable enough to form long strands. So really it's just not practical to use arsenic in our DNA for this reason. As Harvard microbiologist Alex Bradley described in his critique of Felisa Wolfe-Simon's research, DNA containing arsenic would have been so unstable in water that it could not have survived long enough to have been analyzed. And let's look at all the elements that make up DNA. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. All of these elements have something in common. On the periodic table of elements, they're all at the top of their columns, except for phosphorus, but it's the top after nitrogen is used. With the way the periodic table of elements is organized, this means that all of these elements are the most stable elements in their respective chemical families. So the DNA that we have right now is as stable as it could possibly be, and any changes to the structure would make the DNA less stable and more likely to fall apart. So while there's a chance that arsenic could be incorporated into an alien biochemistry, it just doesn't chemically make sense to use arsenic in the place for phosphorus in DNA. It's just too unstable to be useful. Sorry arsenic, but every element has its strengths and weaknesses. And there we are. This was actually a fun topic to research and talk about. Maybe I could do another video topic about other hypothetical biochemistries, like substances that could replace water. Let me know what you all think. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye! Adenosine triphosphate, adenosine triphosphate, adenosine triphosphate. Organisms produce a chemical called which I think is the fun of hypothetical. My foot's asleep.